This week we begin Sefer Devarim. Sefer Devarim, kind of the forgotten parshas that we don't get a chance to learn in school, but Parshas Devarim, Sefer Devarim is really Moshe Rabbeinu's final message to the Jewish people. And Parshas Devarim begins, Moshe Rabbeinu is rebuking the Jewish people for many of the mistakes that they've made over the 40 years in the Midbar. So in Pasuk Chav Zayin, Moshe Rabbeinu is talking about the mistake that they made in the story of the Meraglim, that they sent spies and then they believed a slanderous report. And Moshe says that Yeshua and Kalev told you, Tova ha'aretz, that the land is good, but you didn't want to go and you rebelled. Let's translate that word for now, is that you slandered in your tents. Vatomru, and you said, B'Sinas Hashem osanu, and Hashem's hatred for us, He took us out of Mitzrayim. To deliver us into the hands of the Amorim to destroy us. Very difficult line to understand. Rashi explains that this is a form of projection, that because they felt a bitterness towards the Kadosh Baruch Hu for some reason, therefore they felt that bitterness being reflected back. And it's a funny idea that we have the people, they were just taken out of Mitzrayim, they just went through Ma'amid Har Sinai, they went through Hashem's great forgiveness after the Chet HaEgel, and now they feel some level that some sort of a bitterness towards HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that Hashem is setting them up for failure by bringing them to Eretz Yisrael. Very difficult to understand, especially in light of, we've mentioned before, the Or HaChaim on Pasuk Lamed Zayin points out that they were about to go enter Eretz Yisrael. They were on a madrega where Klal Yisrael has never ever been since, and they've never reached that level of greatness again. They were about to have Moshe Rabbeinu bring them into Eretz Yisrael and build the Beis HaMikdash to last LaNetzach. In fact, Hashem was rushing them quickly from Ma'amid Har Sinai from Har Sinai, after being there for this time period, to bring them into Eretz Yisrael. In fact, just to point out their greatness, Rashi on the 8th pasuk tells us, Bo Rashu, come and take possession of it. He says, had they not sent the spies, they would not have needed weapons in order to conquer Eretz Yisrael. That would have been the greatness, that was the greatness of the Jewish people at this time before this sin. Very ironic. And since they sent spies, now they ended up having to fight to conquer the land. If they wouldn't have sent the spies, the Torah tells us that they never would have even needed weapons to conquer Eretz Yisrael. So they're very difficult to understand. How could they say a line like B'Sinas Hashem osanu? Obviously, people so great were not articulating such a line. It must have been deep in the recesses of their heart some sort of, obviously the Meraglim story of why they refused is a complicated story. It's not to be taken at surface level that they just openly rebelled against Hashem, such great people, but there was a certain lack of bitachon, and maybe on some imperceptible level within them, people with such avas Hashem, there was some deep feeling somewhere of B'Sinas Hashem osanu. Where does it come from? What was the midah behind it? So we have this interesting word in the pasuk, vateragnu. It's Rashi says it comes from the word in Mishlei of a nargan. What's a nargan? So Rabbeinu Yonah in Shaarei Teshuva, the last one, Shar Gimel, number 231, Reish Lamed Aleph, Rabbeinu Yonah is talking about midos that cause a person to speak lashon hara, which is what they did here, and he talks about the midah of a nargan. A nargan is a person who is a negative person, a complainer. Rabbeinu Yonah talks about the pasuk in Mishlei, Divrei nargan kemislamim. The words of a complainer are like he's receiving blows, meaning a person has this air of negativity. He always feels like he's taking abuse. He has good people around him treating well, but this is what happens to him. He feels like l'slamim. He feels like he's taking blows. V'hem yardu chadrei batan, and then he descends to the chambers of the stomach. It means he sends fiery things back to people, and he is rough towards people, and it descends into the hearts, into the stomachs, into the depths of people's souls, because he's so sharp in his arrows that he fires back. So Rabbeinu Yonah is saying this pasuk is telling us the nargan could be somebody that he feels like he's the one being abused. He feels like the victim. He's surrounded by people hurting him and bad things happening to him. In the meantime, he's the abuser. He's the one who's dealing sharp arrows at everybody else who have only showed him kindness. This idea of the warpedness that can develop in a person and make him into a nargan. Rabbeinu Yonah brings the pasuk in Mishlei, v'nirgan mafrid olav. The complainer estranges even the Olaf, even the most great, even a person who's a good friend who guides him along, he alienates him because they're unable to tolerate his company anymore. If you ever deal with a person who just everything is no good and gives off tons of negative energy, even if you want to be kind and you want to listen to such a person, it's just very difficult. A person who lives with such dark glasses, it's mafrid people, it sends people away. And Rabbeinu Yonah says there are times that such a complainer will ignore good for them, and not only that, they'll even think the person was really trying to harm them. They'll view it like ra tachas yashiv ra tachas tova. They'll repay the good kindness somebody does to them with evil, with badness. Meishiv ra tachas tova. And they'll even think that way about HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that Hashem is bringing vengeance upon them. You could have a person who has a negative view of the world, and he has a nice home, and it's a kapara, this home. Look at that's wrong with it, this is wrong with it. He has a nice family, it must be kapara for things I did wrong in a previous life. This kid makes me nuts, and my wife makes me nuts. And you could have a person who Hashem is bringing good upon him, and it's telling us this midah of Narganus, of negativity, allows him to see everything in a negative way. Rabbeinu Yonah quotes our pasuk. You complained and you said Hashem's hatred for us caused him to take us out. That they were people who experienced the greatest chesed of Hashem ever. Hashem took them out of Mitzrayim, gave them the Torah, and they could come to such a, whatever infinitesimal, imperceptible to them, I assume, level, that they could say such a line. B'Sinas Hashem osanu hotzianu mi Mitzrayim. I guess feel such a line. And the Rabbeinu Yonah tells us, therefore, we have to distance ourselves from the derech of the Narganim, and instead learn how to be dano kavschos, limed lashoncha, and gord v'yayt tzedek ezor masnecha. The Navi warns us about such a person. They have made their paths crooked. A person who treads upon that path of being a nargan, of being a negative person, will never know peace. So it's really something we have to put headspace on, especially for our own simchas chayim, for the simchas chayim of others that we deal with. In this time of Tishba, we focus on the ben adam achavero to make sure that we're treating other people properly. It's just it's a happier way to live. We have to do our hishtadlus to develop the midah, to do whatever we need to do, develop the midah of ayin tova, develop positive energy, and thereby be a source of light and not darkness in the world. May you have a wonderful Shabbos.